Welcome to Beyond the Blind. We'll talk about everything from hunting tips and techniques to wild stories that only come from time spent outdoors. So grab your gear, tune in, and get ready for a podcast that takes you beyond the blind. Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Beyond the Blind. Pat and Kelly here, and we are with a very special guest, good friend of mine, Bradley Seals. Welcome, Bradley, and he is the owner of Gandy Creek Game Birds, and we are just honored to have you on. And man, we sure do appreciate you being here with us.
Yeah, Pat. Thanks for having me on, man. We've been trying to get this together for some time now. I'm glad we're finally able to slow down long enough to get it done.
Yeah, and just so everybody knows, I messed up just a minute ago, and I'm so glad he decided to stay with us because um, I'm not computer tech savvy as can be, but I messed up and wasn't able to get my board running right. But I appreciate you hanging with me. Um,
No problem.
so um, we were talking about how you got into it, and if you can, I'd love for everybody to be able to hear that story about how you decided you wanted to get into game birds.
Yeah. So as I was saying, I spent most of my childhood, uh, Pat, hunting with my granddad. It's my mom's dad. He actually retired from driving a freight truck, and so when I was a kid, I went hunting a lot with him. He took me hunting. My dad did too. My dad took me hunting as well. But most of us, growing up, our parents, much like you and I do now, they had to work from can to cane to support a family, and so with my granddad being retired, I spent a lot of time hunting with him. I killed, I think, just about every game there is to kill in Alabama. The first one with my granddad, squirrel, deer, turkey, and you name it. Uh, but I grew up listening to my granddad's stories of hunting wild quail,
Mm-hmm.
and although in your lifetime, there's not been
Not many here.
a huge population. Can you hear me?
Yeah, not many in the state of Alabama, huh?
No. I mean, I'd seen a few wild quail flush or get up going deer hunting or something, but as far as populations to be able to hunt and have a bird dog and go hunt wild quail, you may run for weeks and weeks with a dog and never find a covey to hunt. So my granddad was always talking about stories, of him and his friends and brothers and all that hunting back in the '60s with bird dogs. And I think back then every family household had a bird dog or two.
Right.
uh, and he'd talk about his old dog Rebel. And so just listening to all that, I've always been kind of, you know, inspired about bobwhite quail. I mean, just, they've always intrigued me. So one time when I was, it was, well, it was about, I guess about 11, 12 years ago now. Um, I ordered some bobwhite quail chicks from a mail order catalog. I think it was like McMurray's Hatchery or something like that from up Missouri. We, as a kid, we'd order, farm chickens through the catalog. They'd come in the mail. You go pick them up at the post office. And so I decided to order, I think it was a couple hundred, baby quail chicks, bobwhite quail chicks.
Yeah.
And so I did that mainly just to see the bird, like be close to the bird, with plans of maybe, harvesting a few of them and, for the dinner table. And so I did that, and I didn't realize how difficult they could be to raise. They were much more difficult than raising, chickens or whatever. But I think, out of a couple hundred baby chicks, I might have raised 25 or 30. Most of them died on me just from me not knowing what to do and how to do and all that. So, but I kind of got started, and that was I just did that for me. But I was at work one day, and a guy came by, and he had heard that I was had raised some bob white quail, and he uh, he inquired about maybe buying some of them from me, and he had bird dogs, and I guess he looking back now, he was going to get them and put them out and hunt them with his bird dogs or whatever. Um, so I did. I sold him a few birds, and he came back, several months later, wanting me to raise, more for him. And
Mm.
so I think I think the second time I ordered, I may have ordered a few hundred more with anticipation of still losing a lot of them, trying to do better, but expecting to still lose a big percentage of them. And I did much better. Of course, at that time I started doing my research. Hey, what did I do wrong?
Right.
What can I do better? And this and that. So that's uh, that's kind of how I got started raising quail commercially. The years following that, I just continued to research, and it's something that I seen as a way to have a good source of income. And there were a couple of quail growers, within a couple hours of me that I knew of, had learned about, through the process. And a couple of them I had actually called and asked questions, and so a couple of those guys were very helpful, to help me get started. But
Well, that's what
yeah,
I was going to ask is how
yeah.
how were they on having a new guy step in, and were they friendly about it, or were they um, hey man, this is maybe you shouldn't do this.
funny you, funny you ask. One, one, one guy, one guy in particular that played a vital role in helping me get started. His name was Robert Strickland at Triple Creek Quail Farm down in Mentor, Alabama.
Hmm.
Um, I talked with Robert about raising birds. He was very helpful, very open to helping me get started. At the time, um, the demand for quail was very high for pen raised quail and on hunting preserves and different things. And so I talked with him, and I actually rode with Robert. I drove down early one morning and rode with him to deliver birds to one of his customers, and in hopes that we could, a couple hours drive, you know, down and back from down towards Mobile and back. And I had a bunch of questions for him, and he had a lot of tips and all for me, and so we talked for hours and hours, just while we drove. And first, I never will forget it. First thing he told me, and he was like, "Well, listen," he's like, "I hate to disappoint you, but he said there's only three things I know about a bobwhite quail." And I said, "Well, what is that?" He says, "They eat, they poop, and they wake up every day looking for a new way to die."
Oh, that's good.
So you just don't forget something like that. And he was right. he, was, he was right. He was right. You're taking an animal that's a wild animal that's supposed to be in coveys of 20 to 30 birds, per several acres of land to live on and thrive on, and you're concentrating them, and putting uh, some people concentrate them more than others in pens, but you're looking at putting about one bird per square foot, in a pen. So 1,000 square foot pen, roughly around 1,000 birds
Yeah.
or so. And so you're asking for trouble. You're taking wild birds in captivity, and so many things can go wrong. But back to Robert and helping me get started. We drove down to his customer and back, and that took 4 or 5 hours worth of talking back and forth, and me quizzing him about this and that. And we get back and pull up in the yard, and I had pretty well asked all my questions, and he asked if I had any more, and he said, "Do you still want to raise quail?" And I said, "Yes, sir, I do." He said, "Well, if I hadn't talked you out of it," he said, "you you might be dumb enough to succeed at it." So that's how I got started. But Robert was vital, uh, vital, very vital, in me getting a successful start. I'd say.
That's awesome. It's it's good to walk into an industry and have somebody like that that's willing to take the time and talk with you. I've been in the outdoor
Sure,
industry for a long time, and I'll tell you, it was a fight to learn from some of the guys that I learned from, but
yeah,
they were able to, in their own way, kind of show me and teach me the different things, and it's always good to have that.
sure it is. Sure.
So, as far as you do your pins a little differently, don't you? Can you tell me about that? How you have your stuff set up?
Yeah. Primarily, there are two popular um, methods of growing and raising bobwhite quail in captivity. A lot of people, Pat, and you know, one each has its advantages and disadvantages, but some people will grow birds in what we call dark houses or barns, if you will.
Hmm.
It's basically a closed-in barn. They try to cut off all sources of light as best they can to be able to control how dark it is. Uh, that that accomplishes a couple of things. Keeping it dark inside of a room for that bird's life to maturity, um, it, it 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 keeps them, number one, from pecking each other, for lack of better words. They, again, we're raising these things in captivity and in high concentrations, and so you can raise more birds per square foot in a dark room because they simply can't see the fine details of each other's feathers and things. And birds, most people know that have ever dealt with birds, chickens, etc., all fowl. They're attracted to red. The color red is attractive to them. It's no secret in the fowl industry. Most, if you go to Tractor Supply and buy a chicken feeder or anything like that, it's usually red. The color is red, so they do that to attract them. But if birds start pecking each other, and they start bleeding somewhat, they'll eventually kill that bird because
Right.
they won't stop. There'll be just thousands of birds around, and they'll start pecking each other, and you'll get mortality because of it. Um, the second thing that growing them in a dark house does is when you catch that bird, when it's time to sell him and you sell him to a customer and he takes him out hunting, he's going to put him out in the field and it's going to be daylight.
Right.
And so being raised in a dark house makes that bird a little wilder, if you will. When it gets into the daylight, it's like, whoa. And, sometimes they'll fly a little better. They'll be more energetic, I guess you could say. They'll flush better.
Right.
You're familiar with quail hunting. They get off the ground faster. They flush better. They're spooky, if you will. And so that's the two things, the primary two things advantages to growing in a dark house. Um, Disadvantage to growing in a dark house is those birds never get wet, and I'll explain that. Um, Birds in the wild, they're outside. Quail roost on the ground. They don't
Right.
roost in trees. They roost in coveys on the ground, and they'll all be, well, however many birds are in the covey, 20, 25 birds. They will all roost in a manner to where their rears are all facing each other. So their butts are all facing each other, and every bird in that circle is facing outward,
Interesting.
and that's a means of defense or protection. So
Right.
everybody's got an eye looking outward, for predator, or whatever. And so they get rained on in the wild. And so in order for a quail's preening glands or oil glands to activate, they have to be wet. They have to get wet on a regular basis They have to dust in the dirt like wild turkeys and things do. You've seen little dust spots where turkeys will dust in the ground.
Oh yeah.
They like to do that in moist dirt. There's a number of reasons that they do that, but um, one thing that it does accomplish is it activates that bird's oil glands. So now the bird's feathers have oil in it. So in a dark house or barn raised bird, they don't have that. So if you go buy a bird from a barn raised grower and you take it out, put it out in the field, and it comes a drizzle of rain or it rains on them,
Hmm.
they cannot fly. They absolutely cannot fly. Their feathers they'll look like drowned rats. Uh, they don't have any oil in their feathers to help them wick the water off. So the other method, which I do, and Robert does, and several of the growers that I'm friends with, is we raise them in flight pens. So our birds we advertise are flight and weather conditioned when we sell them. So birds, I'll start my birds out in a what we call a small brooder room, which
Hmm.
is an enclosed wood frame house with heater and feeder and water, etc. And then when those birds get about it depends on weather, but 5 to 6 weeks old or so, we let those birds out into a flight pen where they're exposed to the elements from then until they're sold. And so most time, I'm selling a 18 to 20 week old quail. That's what we consider a mature bird. And so you're looking at 14, 15 weeks of being in the elements. So those birds roost on the ground in the flight pen, and every time it rains, they get wet. Some people, and I do as well, even have sprinkler systems set up, on our flight pens in case of a long or extreme drought where we just don't have any rain. We'll wet the birds with a sprinkler system.
Nice.
But so that fixes the oil um, lack of oil problem in the feathers. So you can take my birds and you can put them out, and it can rain on them. Matter of fact, you can go up here to my flight pens, and it can be raining, continually raining, and the birds just fly from one end of the pen to the other.
That's
They
awesome.
they have the ability, yeah, they have the ability to wick that water off because of oil, the presence of oil in their feathers. Uh, so that's a big deal. A lot of well, my two biggest customers, uh, they will not buy a bird raised in a dark house or barn because they put birds out like they have established coveys, and then they will supplement those birds and coveys as their hunters come and harvest those birds. They'll just supplement that as the birds are harvested, and those birds might stay out. They might be out in a field or a piece of property for weeks before they actually get hunted. So they have to be acclimated to weather, temperature, rain, and so pen raised or flight pen weather conditioned birds do much better at surviving in the wild
So,
than that of a pen of a barn raised bird. You know,
so you're doing if you're sending ones out to for guys who have natural coveys like that, you're doing a lot of out of state stuff, right?
I don't do a lot of out of state stuff anymore, Pat. I have done that. I've delivered birds in Arkansas, extreme west Arkansas, Florida, uh, Georgia, Mississippi, Tennessee. I have done a lot of out of state. The two guys that I supply now pretty well buy the majority of the birds that I raise. So I'm able to sell them locally, fairly locally, within a
Nice.
couple hours drive of me. So as my business has grown, I've picked those local guys up, but they're high end quail hunting establishments. They're not just I'd say I'd call what I call a put and take operation. That's not what they are. They
Right.
They have coveys. It's as close to a wild bird hunting, wild quail hunting experience as you're going to get
That's awesome.
in the state of Alabama.
Now you do you do your own as well? You do your own hunts down there?
Yes, I do. I do. And I would consider myself as one of those, put and take operations where I'll catch birds from a pen. I'll, take and put them out in fields or my property. And within, a couple of hours, we're down there with hunters and dogs and allowing the dogs to find and point those birds and harvest them. Yep.
That's awesome. I love it. Yeah, I'm
Yep.
trying to get down there myself. I just
Yeah.
I got to take some
I
time, you
also,
know.
It does. I also do some guiding for other places. So I've got a couple of customers of mine that have property themselves. They have not really nice property fixed up with quail habitat, and they'll pay me to come and bring birds and bring dogs and guide a hunt on their own property. People that have a place like that like to hunt their own property a lot. So I also do that. I offer that as well.
Yeah, that's super cool, man. I'm so happy to hear that you're doing that. I'm trying to get Kelly's group ADC if we can get some people together to actually come down there and do some learning stuff from you and some hunting.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to it.
on top of the hunts and on top of the birds that do you do any type of dog training?
I I do not. I train my own dogs uh, somewhat. I have a couple of guys that also help me. I've run a small engine lawn and garden service center as well. So during the spring and summer months, we're extremely busy doing that. That's kind of the off season, if you will, for quail.
Right.
You can only legally hunt quail in the state of Alabama from if you've got a preserve, a registered hunting preserve from October 1st to March 31st. So, during the spring and summer months, I stay extremely busy and I don't have the time to put in the dogs and devote to puppies and stuff like that. So,
Right.
I've got a couple of guys that I use that I depend on to help me, get my dogs started, if you will, what we call started. Which is basically taking a young dog, putting it on birds, um, getting that dog to point, hold point on a bird, and a lot, as far as dog training past that is just hunting, man.
Yeah, that's right.
Just you got to get them out there and put them in birds, and they will. These dogs are smart. I mean, we really don't give dogs credit a lot of times for just really how smart they are, and a lot of that they'll teach themselves, uh, and that's what separates the good ones from the great ones.
Yeah,
Right?
that's right. Yeah, we've got
But I do have a kennel. I do raise my own dogs. I have I use English pointers, English setters, and Brittany spaniels for pointing dogs.
yeah,
Um, I'm kind of partial to my Brittany's. they they suit my needs for the type of hunting that I do really well. Um, and here in the last couple of years, Pat, we used to use only pointing dogs, and that was kind of the industry standard. You'd have a couple of pointing dogs out there, and one dog would point and the other one would back, which is honoring the other dog's point. So he would, instead of pointing the scent of the bird, he would see the other dog pointing, and then he would point to. For those that don't know what backing is, it's kind of what we refer to as honoring the point.
yeah,
And so you wanted these dogs to point, back, and retrieve.
yeah,
So uh, Brittany's do really well at that, and some pointers and setters do as well naturally. But in the last couple of years, we've added another element to that. A lot of people are using flushing dogs now.
yeah.
So I started doing that myself a couple of years ago, and man, it is fun. It adds a whole. If you appreciate dog work and watching dogs work, it really adds another element that's just exciting. Hunters just really love it. So for flushing dogs, I use English Cocker Spaniels,
Okay, that's what
and
I was going to ask you. What
yeah,
if you're using your Brittany's for that? I've got a buddy that does the same thing. He's got pointer and flushers, and for his for both, he's actually using Brittany's.
yeah, yeah, and I have had a couple of dogs that that would point, and then I could give the command, and they would flush as well. Um, that's hard. That's those were exceptional dogs. That's hard to teach a dog. For him to know, like, when to hold point, when to stay on point, and then when to flush. Um, that's rather difficult to teach a dog to do all of that. It takes a really really smart dog, and it takes some age on a dog to be able to do that. So what we do now is we train our dogs steady to wing and shot,
Okay.
which basically means the dog points the bird when he smells it. He points the bird. I send a flush dog in, and the flush dog flushes the bird. Uh, the hunter shoots the bird falls, and the pointer dog must remain on point during that whole sequence.
Wow. Yeah,
Um,
that's
so
some
so that's
skill.
that's steady to wing and shot. Yeah, it's uh it's another level of training for sure. But it does two things. It allows me as the guide to kind of stay back behind the shooting gallery, if you will, and that dog runs in, the cocker spaniel runs in and flushes the bird, and the hunter shoot it, and then the cocker retrieves the bird, and so it adds a safety factor to it as well to keep me from being up in front of the hunters and flushing the bird, and you know people having to shoot around me, if you will. So,
Yeah,
but
I'm
it's
sure.
exciting, man. Those little English cockers are they're fireballs, man. They love birds.
I love watching them work, man. They're awesome.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They are. They
So,
are.
um, kind of back onto the on the quail aspect of it. What I've always wondered this, and I've been meaning to get your opinion on this. What would it take for the state of Alabama to have the natural coveys that we once did, or could we ever?
There are a lot of opinions on that, Pat. I will share mine for what it's worth. But before I do that, let me briefly tell you about a hunting trip that we Texas to hunt wild quail.
Okay.
This was back in 2016, and I had heard, all my life, and ever since I had been raising birds, about, quail just don't have a habitat. We've killed the habitat. People are, cutting the longleaf pines, and there is some aspect of that that is true. Um, but a couple of friends of mine drove out to Childress, Texas, in 2016. It was almost the end of season, like it was like the last week of quail season. I had a friend of mine that had a deer lease out there, and he kept telling me that, man, we're seeing a bunch of quail. There's a bunch of wild quail out there, like just tons of coveys of quail. Everywhere we go, we see quail. So we got a group together, and 3 or 4 of us went out there, and we pulled up, Pat. And I don't know if you've ever been to that part of Texas. The Childers, we were north of the town of Childers, and the property we were on was right on the Red River. Like we were just south on the south side of the south bank. And we pulled up, and it started getting daylight, getting dogs out, getting staked out. And as it starts breaking day, and I'm looking out across this country, and I told Steve, a friend of mine that was with us, I said, Steve, we've wasted our time.
Hmm.
He's like, what do you mean? I said, look around. There's nothing. I mean, like, it's like we're almost in a desert, man. There's nowhere for a there's no cover. There's nothing for a quail to eat, much less you know hide in
Right.
out here. And so we done drove 14 hours, so we stayed and we went hunt. We hunted for 2 days, Pat, and we probably, I'm gonna say conservatively, we conservatively flushed over 40 coveys of quail
Really?
in 2 days.
That's nuts, man.
So I told you that story to say the habitat that we have in mind, that I had in mind prior to going out to Texas, was just absolute, thick briar patches, native grasses.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I mean, it was no, I was so off, you know, and I'm still in awe of that particular trip. Um, I have no idea. And some people ask me like, well, where were the birds at? I'm like, around every tree, every mesquite bush, every little thing that you could see had a covey of quail under. I mean,
Everywhere.
just uh, and it was just such a game rich area. Real grand turkeys. Even had some mule deer, a bunch of white-tailed deer there. Um, but it looked nothing. It looked nothing like what you and I are used to, whitetail hunting or turkey hunting in the state of Alabama. It looked nothing like that. We've got a million times more cover, if you will, than that part of Texas did.
And I'm sure that they have
So
the same, predator issues that we have, as far as coons and
yes,
coyotes and
yes,
fire
that's
ants and
another thing.
everything else. So,
Absolutely, they've got the same predators. The predators are larger in size; they're bigger,
right?
and there's more of them. I mean, owls, hawks, coons, possums, fire ants,
Yeah.
bobcats, coyotes, anything that you can imagine that would be against a quail is out there and plentiful. Uh, so my opinion has somewhat changed since that trip to Texas as to the answer to your question. What would it take to see the wild population of quail increase like that in the state of Alabama? I think it's a lot of factors, Pat. I think it's and this is just Bradley's opinion. Not, I mean, there's a little science behind this, but this is my opinion. Habitat, of course, can improve in a lot of places. Um, Burning, fire, is good for most every animal out there,
Right.
to some degree. Um, but Pat, I think I think there is something. Now I don't know. I'm not gonna, you know, jump completely on the bandwagon of herbicides or insecticides or this, that, or the other. But I think there is something that we're doing uh, that hinders the growth and the establishment of quail coveys. It could be bacterial, fungal, parasitic. Um, I don't know, but there's another aspect to it other than just habitat. I can guarantee you that.
Well, that's a
Um,
good point you make. I mean, because you're talking your trip to Texas, right? I mean, you have the same predators more, probably, um,
yeah,
and like you said, bigger, right? So when you got
that's right.
hawks like they do, I mean, every time I've gone to Texas, I've seen a million hawks. I'm sure the coyote population is crazy, just like it is here, because nobody wants to take a coyote during a deer hunt or whatever. Um, so, and you might be onto something there. It could be something more than just natural predation and habitat. Um, I'm like you. I don't know where to put my finger on it, but I don't see why we shouldn't have just a ton of birds everywhere because we do. Like you said, we have the cover. We've got the tall
Mm-hmm.
grasses. We've got the trees. We've got the water. So we got tons of water. Um, I
Mm-hmm.
mean,
Yeah,
there's a lot that goes into these birds, and I know that it takes a lot to keep them coveys up. But I mean, at the same time, yeah, I didn't think about that aspect of it.
yeah, and neither did I. Neither did I, Pat, until I went on that hunting trip. I tell you, it completely changed my outlook and opinion what the problem was. And there's a lot of people out there with degrees a whole lot smarter than me, um, that could give a more professional opinion about that. But I do think it's a combination of all the above. Um, I really do. But I think there's an aspect of it that we haven't figured out. We haven't put our finger on as far as science or wildlife uh, officials, or however you want to put that. I think there's something we're missing.
So let me ask you this then. All right. So, I mean, we're hunters, we're shooters, and we do
Yeah.
miss. We don't hit every bird that flies. What do you think the life expectancy is of a bird? Or say you got five that make it out, into the trees and just hanging out. What do you think the life expectancy is of a pen raised bird making it in the wild for any given amount of time? You think they could?
Yes, they can and they do. I've got, so I'll just give you an example of the two customers that buy birds from me, the larger quail operations. Both are in the state of Alabama. Um, Both of those guys have residual birds that will last, that will survive from one season to the next. And I say season, they start hunting in October, through March, and you can definitely go back without any other birds put out or anything. You can go back to those properties the next fall, the following fall, so 6, 7 months late, 8 months later, and you can find birds. I mean,
Okay.
they're there. They've survived. They've figured out how to avoid predation. They've figured out how to search for and find food. One thing that I have not seen, or that I don't have any proof of, is the birds actually raising, if you will. So
Right.
nesting and actually raising young. That's something that I haven't seen personally, and maybe some guys out there that have seen this and can prove this happen. I haven't seen that from a pen raised bird. Haven't
Okay.
seen
Now, um, I know they do it with ducks and other game birds. Do you ever, just as I know you probably don't, but do you ever band anything just to kind of see?
that. I have not. I have not.
And that's probably a
Now,
silly question because of, I mean, it is a quail, right? So,
yeah, it,
um,
it, it is. But actually, Pat, when I first got started um, and started doing some guided hunts for quail, if you had the law read that if you had a licensed hunting preserve in the state of Alabama, of course, it had to be registered with the state office, uh, but you had to have signage and some other criteria, and you had to ban the birds that you put out. Now,
interesting. I didn't know that.
it's it that rule does not apply anymore. They've since in the past several years they've done away with that. I think mainly because nobody ever did it. I think nobody ever did it, and they really didn't enforce it a lot anyway, because they kind of assumed, hey, if those guys are shooting quail, in Alabama, they're probably pen raised.
Right.
But let me say this: I've got a place here about 30 minutes from my house that I go. Like I said earlier, I take my dogs and birds, and I will go to these guys' property and put quail out, and we'll hunt them maybe 2 days a weekend, Saturday morning or Saturday afternoon, or Saturday morning, Sunday afternoon. And throughout the city, they've got pretty good cover. They've got really good habitat. And throughout the season, we'll do 6 or 8 hunts from November the 1st to March, and those birds will survive. Like, we can, and the reason I know this is because the birds that I take out on any particular hunt and put out, those birds have been in a pen, in a flight pen with other birds, and so their feet are dirty. They've got a little, because in the wintertime it's wet, it rains most of the time.
Yeah.
Their pen stays, somewhat damp or wet, and so mud and feces will stick to the bottom of their feet. Not bad, but enough that you can tell. So there's been multiple occasions that we've shot quail on these guys' property, and when I pick the bird up, look at his feet, I can tell you if it was a bird that I put out today or a bird that survived from a previous hunt.
Nice. That's
The
interesting.
bird from a previous hunt, the bottom of his feet will be just clean as they can be. No dirt, no mud, no anything. So, um, you know, from one season to the next, it'd be kind of hard to tell. But I can definitely tell you that we've killed, dozens and dozens of birds, on this particular property that has good habitat, and they do predator control. I actually help them with that sometimes,
Well, I was gonna say, I
and
know you probably help them with that.
yeah, no doubt, man. Thermals at night over there with those coyotes are fun. Yeah.
So, tell us, you know, I know you've expanded Gandy Creek once. Do you plan on making it any bigger? Any more, putting in
Yes.
any more cages or not cages, but you know, flight shelters and stuff like
Yeah.
that?
So right now, Pat, I've got 25 pens, if you will, and I raised, on average, about 1,000 quail per pen. So each one of my flight pens, including brooder and all, is about 1,200 square feet,
Nice.
and I raise about 1,000 birds in each pen. So I'm up to about 25,000 quail per season. Um,
That's awesome, dude.
that's about all I can do by myself. That's all I can do by myself. I do have some younger guys, high school guys that will come help me catch birds when I've got to sell or haul 2 or 3 thousand birds to, south or north.
Yeah.
So I've got some guys that I can call on. But when it comes to just everyday maintenance, feeding, um, everything that consists of, I do it all.
That,
It's a one man show. So having a full time job and that on top of that, I'm stretched out, stretched thin, if you will. That's about as many as I can raise without having to hire some full time help.
yeah.
So, to answer your question, yes, I do. I do want to expand. I could expand. The demand is there. Um, right now, I just don't have the time or resource to do that. But I do plan on expanding in the future. I sure do.
That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, I've watched you grow. Since
Yeah.
what I met you in probably 2016, 2017, something like that. And I've just
Yes, sir.
watched your
Yeah.
business grow, and it's just awesome
Yep.
to watch. I mean, I'm so happy and um, glad to know you're doing well with this.
Yeah, yeah, man. I appreciate it, Pat. Yeah, you and I go back pretty good ways. From, I guess, we first met when you were in Clear, I think,
At Calera, yeah,
working working down there. So yeah, it's been good, man. Hey, look, the good Lord has blessed me, man, and with my family and my main business and the quail business, quail farm, and with the dogs and everything. I'm a I'm a blessed man. I got a wife, 4 kids, and super blessed, dude. Super blessed.
well, and that's one thing we got to do. We got to give thanks to the one who gives it to us, right? Because
That's
without
right,
his
bro.
blessing, we ain't doing nothing.
We're not doing. We're spinning our wheels, man. We can do nothing of our own accord.
That's right.
Absolutely nothing.
That is
Yep.
100%. Well, I think we have taken enough of your time, brother. I really, really do. Again, appreciate you coming on the show and talking with us. And I know Kelly's excited to talk to you about doing some stuff with ADC,
Yeah.
getting some
Yep.
girls down there, who have never hunted before. Well, not I'm not gonna say never hunted.
Mhm.
Probably never quail hunted before on a guided hunt like that, and I think it's going to be interesting.
Sure.
I want to come down there when y'all do it as well, just to. Um, I just like watching the dogs work. To be honest with you, man, like watching those
I
little
know.
Brittany's go and it
Yeah.
them turning on a dime like that and just stopping and holding. It's just like it's amazing. But me and Kelly send each other videos every day back and forth
They're mostly of setters, though.
of
Because,
setters, and I
well,
watch a lot
Yeah.
of the German short haired pointers as well. And
yeah.
Yeah.
those dogs are going 90 miles an hour, and they just stop on a
Well,
dime. And
the poodle pointers,
the poodle
the,
pointers, those
I
do
Oh yeah.
didn't,
good
I
too.
didn't know those were a dog, but all of them, they can all just function.
Yeah, mine don't.
Yeah. That's
Our,
right. That's right. Yeah. There's a lot of dogs out there that people use. Now, yeah, I know some people that use pointing labs. So you can teach a dog to point. A lot of these dogs that we're talking about, those that we've mentioned that you just mentioned and I mentioned, those a lot of those dogs do it naturally. Like they just have a natural instinct to point
Yeah,
my,
things and birds and
I,
but
I got a
yes.
setter in February 1st, actually. She's the reason I hit the deer with my truck that got stolen. But you can see it in her genetics.
yeah, you
She
can
just,
see it.
Yes.
she just,
Yes.
I just haven't sent her off to hone that in, but it's there. I mean, it's in
Hmm.
her. Um,
Oh,
and
no
it's,
doubt, no doubt. I've seen guys have a litter of puppies, whether it be English pointers or setters or Brittany's. They'd have 6 or 8 little, you know, 4, 5, 6 week old puppies out there and take a wing on the end of a fishing pole or something and flip it out there on the ground. And the whole litter of pups just
mhm.
point. At one time. That's just amazing to me. It's
Yeah,
absolutely amazing. But yeah, setters are pretty. They're beautiful dogs. If
it
you like a somewhat long haired dog, they do really well.
they did,
In
and that.
in some Yeah,
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, in some places, depending on where you're hunting, habitat, and all, you kind of have to keep those setters, trimmed a little bit, because quail are in the anything that'll stick to you. They use that for protection, briar patches and
that's right.
things like that. So
Hmm.
the long haired dog kind of gets caught up in some of that. And my Brittany's are the same way. Usually at the beginning of the season, I won't just shave them down, but I'll trim the long hairs on the back of their legs and tails, rear end a little bit to kind of help with that.
Hmm.
And but I got some numbers to some really really good dog trainers, Kelly. If
Yeah, I'll
you want to
probably
send that
need
dog,
those.
get him
'Cause,
trained. I can point you in the
gee.
right direction. I know some guys that are just, I mean, they're just whispers when it comes to pointing dogs. Man, they just have that natural. Uh, they just understand how a dog thinks, and
Hmm.
they can get in their head, do really good. And I might have to try to get back on with you guys in the near future. This coming Saturday, basically the same group of guys I went to Texas with in 2016. We're going to Oklahoma,
Oh man,
Mm.
uh, to Cheyenne, Oklahoma, to hunt wild quail. Taking all of our dogs, going up there. We're going to be there. I think the season comes in Saturday the 8th, and we're going to come hunt through. I think the 12th. Come back, stay 3 or 4 days, and hunt. So
that'd be
that's the first
awesome.
time. This will only be the second time in my life that I've had the opportunity to hunt wild quail. So I'll try to.
That's
I
cool.
may try to get some video or something for you from that
Hmm.
trip.
Oh, I'd
Let
love to
y'all know
have it,
how that
man.
goes.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a buddy that went out there and shot some pheasants.
Uh huh.
I think just recently he went out there. I think it was about 2 weeks ago. And shot some pheasants out in Cheyenne. So
Yeah.
yeah, man. I'm jealous. That's awesome. But would
Yeah.
and
Looking
we'd
forward to it.
definitely love to have you back on, man.
Hmm.
I'll tell you, this has been our first interview, and I'll tell you, I don't think you can get much more in depth than we did today, and I love it. This is great piece for everybody out there to learn about. And Bradley, we really appreciate you taking the time. I know you're busy. Like you said, 4 kids and 25,000 birds.
Did you say 25,000? Well, that was
25,000 birds and 4 kids. I know you got your hands full, brother, and we appreciate
You're outnumbered.
it. Yeah, you're outnumbered for sure.
A lot of mouths to feed over here.
Well, Bradley, thank you, brother. We sure appreciate you, and I will talk to you soon.
Yeah, Pat. Thanks again for having me on, man. I really do. I've enjoyed watching you guys podcast. That's a really good thing y'all got going on, and I really look forward to you bring the ladies down, Kelly. Just let me know when we can make that happen. I've slowed down a lot, so I've got my place here ready to hunt and prepared and everything. So just set it up and we'll make it happen.
All right.
All right. Well, guys, thank y'all. We appreciate it for tuning in to another episode of Beyond the Blind. Y'all go check out Gandy Creek Game Birds on Facebook and give Bradley a like. We sure appreciate y'all. Thank you. Bye.